episode 11. We're talking about a rework and a new champion. What champion, you ask? Well, that's what we're going to find out on the new League Lounge episode 11 right here. And today we're joined by Feathers. How are you, Feathers?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic again. How are you doing tonight? How you feeling?
Just feeling really good. I'm actually interested to talk about what's going on with this update. But first, let's talk. Let's keep in touch about what ZGG is going on. In case you don't know what's going on, Season X or Feathers is in now. Is a not now, but I want to say it formally, if because I think you were taking a break, step back from now on. But even so, owner, one of the owners of CGG or Zero Gravity Gaming's. Now, what are you up to with CGG these days now?
Again, we're just working towards the next upcoming split. Obviously, I had taken a bit of a backseat. I'm kind of still in a consultant aspect, but recently, aka just yesterday, they we kind of got towards that pre-planning phase where we're looking at 1 or 2 weeks from now submitting our opening up our applications for the summer split. Um, Once more, just having the exact same struggles that often go on in a lot of amateur leagues, where they're just simply again there's not enough administrators. Where you're kind of just lacking the bodies, needing a little bit more staff. At one point last split, we had 3 admins. With because obviously personal issues, life comes first on a couple of things.
Oh yeah,
But so that's just we're wrapping up for summer split, but obviously we have that level of optimism. We're also, feeling the stress of being a little understaffed as a wide variety of amateur leagues do.
no, I get it. I get it. Lack of manpower and just basically just pushing through it, whatever you can with the scheduling and curriculum. I get that because honestly, I also work with a certain schedule and curriculum that's going on. We don't want to like break that system at least, but at least try to adapt from it. That's totally fine. That's totally understandable. Um, so far about ZGG, like what we're gonna go on the topic anyways, but I just wanted to mention about what do you think about your amateur leagues that's now trying to adapt to this what we call the champion durability patch, along with Belveth, along with this new champion that we're gonna come up right now, but mainly because of certain changes that are gonna be now focused within the meta. That changes in the meta, like ADCs are gonna be like sort of a priority, but junglers also are gonna have a little bit of a more important role to this, along with tops sort of being a tank, because now with the whole health issue being going on, no healing at that point, that's gonna be a huge determination on whether or not you want to pick a tank top, or possibly just picking a tank support, just making this game a little bit longer and harder to play with.
Well, it's really interesting, and I appreciate the fact that you brought that up because having played in the competitive scene, um, much as we like to rag on Riot and give them a little bit of grief in regards to their balancing aspects, it is clear that the durability patch it certainly has affected things. But even if we're looking at the micro patch again that was kind of just released, I believe last night, or like 12.12b, so they have a micro patch again that just shipped. In a lot of those cases, we saw champions that were being nerfed a little bit. Belveth, Senna, Seraphine, Tom Kench, Wukong, and Zeri, all of those were extremely prevalent at the level in which I play with again, or play at, which is again the kind of the gold amateur league meta,
Yeah.
where Zeri or Senna, Tom Kench were being extremely prevalent. Border we where Wukong was considered a potential first pick. Elveth was just starting to get into gold amateur leagues because we had a competitive hiatus. And as soon as it was cleared, it was almost immediately an early pick in almost every single game. It was
Nobody
already
bans it. Nobody even
well,
bans it.
that's the thing that kind of came with it was is that you know we're gold players, so we have the joy at some points of we can work on piloting it.
Mhm.
You know, there there was a game last week where we played where we basically said, okay, well, we're we're kind of going new meta versus old meta. The old meta, again, old in quotation marks, being Wukong or Volibear as the
Mm,
junglers. When Bel'Veth was brought in, we one of my teams said, okay, well, if they want Wukong, they can take Wukong. We'll take Bel'Veth and just trust.
mm,
Or alternatively, we'll ban the Wukong and force them to have to decide whether they want to ban Bel'Veth or not. Like that was just simply she was however little when we were just starting to see the beginnings, and obviously I'm going to continue to see that in weeks to come, just beginning to see the potential. And then that Belfast brought competitively, she was already getting a little bit of a tiny nerf from Riot.
mm-hmm,
So what I'm getting at again in regards to durability patch, obviously, you know, we are seeing longer, more drawn out fights. There is
mm,
still a little bit more, skill expression, but some of those outliers that were beginning to creep into gold competitive, as previously said, Zeri, Senna TK, uh, you know, Belveth, Wukong, they were starting to get hit a fair bit already, and at least that to me shows that there was some knowledge of some of those outliers. Have they
mm,
gotten rid of all of them? No, but at the very least, you know, people can argue, well, Volibear is still extremely prevalent in our, kind of like the gold meta. Whether that's right or wrong, to each their own. But at the very least, we're seeing attempted adaptations. And I think we're going to see
mm.
that. Obviously, we're talking about it later on a variety of other chats, but even stuff like, tweaking Gwen. That was something that got mentioned a couple days ago, I believe.
Yeah.
And so we're going to see, a wide variety of changes in regards to the competitive environment for League. So I'm definitely appreciative of that. Obviously, we're going to get to a little bit more into that topic in just a little bit.
Yeah, but going back to what we're gonna discuss about, uh, I think this champion is coming out sooner or later. I'm not sure how many days left or how many weeks left, but there have been discussion about a new champion going on called Nyla. Now, this is something I like, but I was hoping that this wouldn't be any other champion that'd be so OP like Viego or Belveth or even Zeri that used to be a really OP champion. Uh, but honestly, why I like Nyla that's been going on because what I just realized is that Riot's been recently releasing a lot of female champions, and an example of for example I'm speaking of is 2021 to 2022. There has been two, three, four, five female champions that have been released, Nyla included, which makes it six. But there's only two male champions that have been released. Can you guess which male champions are that's been released in 2021 to 2022?
Wow, it's definitely been a long, long time. If I'm sitting there thinking about it, and the fact of just that that doesn't come to mind right away, speaks volumes as to how
Right?
well. Yeah,
But
no,
but
absolutely.
but let's do a little game here for you
I mean,
for your feathers. Two male champions that has been released in 2021 to 2022. Which two male champions have been released during that year?
well, again, I have to go back to the terror that occasionally comes up in top lane, Akshan, and again the other terror, in regards to the jungle at some points, Viego, but like no, so
That was actually correct. That was actually
yeah,
Viego and
yeah,
Alcyon.
yeah.
But
The only, yeah.
oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah, but yeah. Actually, no. Speak for yourself. What you got on your mind?
Well, just again, the only reason I recall those champions is because there was those times in which they were absolute terrors, right? Um, with various mechanics. And I think we're going to continue to see that here with Nyla coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So Akshan in any point, a lot of people when they talk about Akshan, it kind of seems like kind of a I don't want to say the term disjointed kit, but it just seems like they threw an entire toolbox of stuff onto Akshan.
Mm-hmm.
And any time that I've seen an Akshan in top lane, it has been nothing short of a terror for me. So I'm always happy
Mm-hmm.
when, much as I don't want to, inflict suffering upon my own team, whether that be in ranked or, competitive play, I'm always happy when the Akshan goes mid. maybe it's just me. I'm just,
No, this
I
is
get a little bit terror.
this is the reason why I like Asha going mid because its Q would not apply so good as a top lane or bot lane because it curves. So with mid
Hmm.
lane, you can actually create a long Q. Like imagine you're able to perfect that Q, right? You can literally if you can aim that correctly with your Q, create a long line. And if you're really stupid and you stay under tower, if you're low health, you might get hit by the boomerang. If you think
Yeah,
about it.
it's yeah, no, absolutely.
So that's the crazy thing that you can actually play as an auction on mid. But going top or bot, I know some people went bot, some people went on top for auction, and the damage despite itself is actually pretty good. The Q itself, once you start level 1 early game, it's not gonna do as good as we thought it would be. Because it
Yeah.
has a curvature lane, so you pretty much don't have anything to settle with. Only on wave clears like Scion's Q. Who else would be a good Q? Gangplank Q. Gnar will be similar to what Auction has for his Q, anyways. But what else do we have here? Um, I pretty much set Mordekaiser, like those kind of champions with that large array of hitboxes like that would be a would be a good wave clear for a top champion. But seeing Auction and going on top and managing to do that, I'm surprised. And I'll be like, that person must be a really good like marksman to aim carefully at your Q and position really well. But even so, going ahead of this vegan auction, yes, they both have been both terrors of what that year comes. But let's also go to the female champions. Since there are 6 champions that have been released, and we already mentioned 2 of those, Belveth and Nyla. Name the 4, if you can, in order that has been released. The female champions that have been released in 2021 to 2022.
Okay, let's see.
Are you
So
scrolling, by the way? I hear you scrolling.
no, no, I'm just trying to think. So if I'm going from top to bottom, again, I'm not going to go in order. I Gwen because they've obviously had to continue to tweak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Vex, and then we talked again about Belveth. So and Zeri. At that point, those are the ones that I'm sitting there thinking of.
You've got
So
one more.
yeah. So then that one has slipped my mind. Consider it done. So
You've got one more, but I think
yeah.
if you think about carefully, there is one champion that has been recently released that people just don't. They probably forgot about, or you forgot about, but it's right there. Do you know who
I
it is?
mean, no, I don't. Off the top of my head, no. So
Run on the glass.
oh, Renata, yes, yes, yeah, no.
You missed
That's
one. Minus one.
that, there we go. Yeah. Well, of course, if I'm a top laner, right? I forget about the bot lane until it matters to me, right?
No.
Until something's going wrong down there, and then of course it's always not my fault. But yeah, absolutely, Renata.
But
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually discuss it with you about that. What do you like? What is your reaction about seeing Riot releasing more female champions than male champions at this point now?
the the nihilist in me would go, well, this is, obviously it's a little bit more of a cash grab because, if we're looking at the perspective of, release dates, with the exception of Akshan, previously, if we even want to go back before that, even before Akshan and Viego, the next champion before that was Yon, like for male. So if we're talking about it, we got this kind of edgy aspect of either, this edgy rogue aspect of Yon or Viego or Akshan. Whereas if we're looking at female characters, we've talked again about Gwen or Renata, Zeri. There is definitely a little bit more of a variety. What I
Mm-hmm.
will say is that that obviously may come from a financial standpoint
Right.
off of some of those things, I would say. Um, you know, the edgy aspect of Viego or Yon. Whereas, like, if we continue to walk back on that, we've gotten near probably 10 female champions to lost 3 male champions, um, with a whole wide variety of perspectives. Not simply just, Renata, but if we're looking for kind of, more bubbly or airy aspects, you could look at Zeri, Seraphine. If you're looking at more kind of, uh, Dommy mommy vibes, you could go with Renata or Belveth. You know, Even if you're looking for the more kind of like emo aspect, you could go with Vex or Rel. So there there's a wide
Hold
variety of
on, you call
you know.
Rel emo?
Well, she certainly isn't a happy champion
I
in
guess
any way,
so.
shape.
I guess so. But you ever see you ever seen her going? I mean, you seen one of her taunts. She goes, "We," on one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand what you're saying. I was like, you call Rel an emo though. What the heck? Okay, but yeah, I understand that. And also, I do want to mention that you mentioned about the rates of the champions being released, male champions being released versus female champions, and that's one that include. I want you in your best guess, because there are over 150 champions. That how many male champions are there, and how many female champions are there? Try your best to like give an estimate. I don't really care.
I would say 60% female to 40% male. If we're talking again about explicitly between the two of them, that's what I would say.
Well, I was gonna say that,
60
but
to
I'm
40.
talking about total wise.
Total wise, well, again, I would say about, let's say, 90 female to 70 male.
Oh, you were close, but here's the thing: you got it on the wrong side. So there
Oh,
are in this case there are 98 male champions and 63 female champions, including Nyla.
well, there you have it. Again, maybe it's just recency bias there in my regard. So
No,
I
that's what I also got shocked too. I googled this and I realized there are at least somewhat twice as many male champions as a female champion there is. And it kind of make me a little bit concerned because the fact that yes, while in this case, league does apply sort of a more male perspective on competitive aspects, we do include a lot more male champions per se than female champions. And honestly, it kind of makes me a little bit happy, but at the same time that there are more male champions to induce like masculinity and all that too. But it kind of makes me a little bit mad because the fact that they don't balance it out, making female champions. Because bruh, even the other side of us, we are simps. We need more female champions.
hey, simping ain't easy. Simping ain't easy. I think that's what you know. In a different way, that's what a rapper back in the day said, but didn't use simping as the term. But you
I
know,
know.
I I think again, I am all for more representation.
Mm,
Um, and I'm appreciative of that. Obviously, again,
mm,
there's a reason why some of the most cited, you know, profitable champions for Riot are champions like, Misfortune or Lux and all that. Ari. So obviously, rightly or wrongly, those fantasies continue to exist and obviously are profitable for Riot in the context of League. That's for sure.
So I'm gonna bring up about Nyla in this case. So we mentioned about Nyla being the newest champion that come out, but here's another thing that people already know that what we're gonna expect from Nyla: the level of the level of OP, like overpowering that when it comes to a new champion. So I'm gonna bring an example of say Viego and Zeri. We all know that when Viego and Zeri got released, that their power level got really like over the top because what we just realized what Zeri produced was really bad. Like as in like her damage was unstoppable. Along with Viego, he manages to deal a lot of damage from his Qs. I don't know about his stuns, what his CC root was, but we know for sure that when he broke down his R, that R damage was really on top. Especially if you build like a lot, especially if you build like Divine Sunder. I think what he used to build on, and he
Mm-hmm.
smashed everybody.
And it's interesting that you bring up Zeri because again, Zeri is a really interesting champion from a balancing standpoint because of the amount of mobility that she brings. And so, if we're looking at the context of Zeri, given how much mobility, if you're trying to tweak Zeri right now, which was she was in the patch notes for 1212B here. Do you look at the aspect of, trying to remove aspects of her mobility, or do you look at damage? Because when Zeri really started to get pushed up into that extremely like noticeable, like we absolutely have to pick ban her or account for her in games,
Yeah.
it came from an additional scaling up on her damage that that came through in regards to various patches and tweaking in that regard. Um,
Oh.
Her basic attack in 12 in 12 when the viability patch kind of continued in 12.7, she had her slow duration went up, her AD ratio went on a ultra shock laser, her cooldown was reduced. So in 12.7, like they started tweaking with her ratios, and that helped. And obviously the durability patch brought that even more so. So it's interesting in regards to how they're going to look to handle her
Mm-hmm.
in the future,
Right.
because obviously they've had to scale back some of the stuff, especially on Ultra Shock Laser.
Yeah. And here's the thing too. Uh, August WDW, which who he is the main designer of from Riot, who creates not creates but designs the League of Legends champions. He mentioned
Mm-hmm.
about Zeri. I especially said this why you want to build Zeri like more movement speed, because he said that he thought about it, and Zeri is the only champion if I recall with the movement speed buff. Nobody else has it. Nobody else has the movement speed buff except for Zeri, like as a passive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that really got me thinking. It's like, oh right, she is one of those champions that doesn't have a movement speed that does have a movement speed buff. The only person I recall who he technically does have a movement speed buff would be who goes faster? I think Vayne, right? Condemned, right?
Yeah, I think it. I think, and again, technically, again, if you're looking at passive, you'd include Janna, but it's not. It's not something that's tied in as like you would say, like with Vayne or whatever. The Again, it's interesting in the context of recent champion releases, because obviously there seems to be a newer focus on overloading the toolkit of these champions, and then looking to tweak kind of after the fact.
Mm.
And to cycle it into Nyla, that certainly is that's the early sensation, because you know Riot was looking in regards to having kind of a borderline DPS or like a FPS ADC, like that aspect of kind of that first person shooter aspect. And with Zeri firing an absolute ton of bullets, having a constant stream in regards to her ult, Nyla being you know Nyla being this melee ADC, but they're reviving that old Mordekaiser mechanic in order to encourage her to have that bot lane. And the passive, again, is going to be the interesting thing when it comes to that for me, because of the if Nyla last hits an enemy minion, you get the normal amount of shared experience plus half that would be, lost due to sharing. So if we're looking at that, that is going to what Nyla is going to bring, especially in regards to counter matchups. If she's brought into the right matchup, is going to be absolutely. It was warping back in the day when Mordekaiser went bot lane with some people, and you were sitting there with a Mordekaiser at level 6, where you were at level like just crossing into level 5 or level 4.5. And I think again that it's going to further cast a light down bot lane. It could bring some, we can talk about, how it could bring some champions that maybe haven't had as much love, that could really, really work well down in the bot lane. That's where I'd be interested.
Bring
But
back Sipper. Bring back Sipper. Or even no, not even better. Even better. Bring back Ash. Bring back Ash.
it's, I mean, if we're looking at some of those aspects, though, like if you're playing could this really be a point where even a champion like Tarek again played mostly in counter pick stuff at any single point,
Oh,
but
you're right.
but with a game changing ult, right? Like, if you're timing it right, a Tarek ult again can be, absolutely beyond game impactful. And if he's reaching that level 6 ult far earlier as a result of being in lane with Nyla, plus, additional aspects. If Tarek's healing or shielding, Nyla gets that healer shield as well. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of potential synergy. Or
I
additionally, even someone like Zillion. Like
the
they
speed,
could
right?
just be well, the speed or Zillion's passive giving experience, giving additional experience, like time in a bottle, or Zillion's
Wait,
ult,
that works. That worked for Zillion too. What Nyla can share experience XP with, that can actually work for Zillion too.
well, Zillion's time in a bottle, allowing you to get like to pass experience and give each other levels or what have you. Like Zillion could
No,
easily,
that one I know. I'm just saying, can
yeah,
Nyla's like rate, can Nyla's rate like share XP rate can actually it actually can like make Zillion's what is it called, time in a bottle more faster.
it won't, but even if it is like it's still pushing that it can still push up the speed on some of those things. It's not
Wow.
necessarily it's not that that time is still going to occur, but if you're in a lane with somebody who's giving you like additional experience just by being present,
Mhm.
that can get you closer to getting, finishing that allies level up because you're getting more experience in lane than the opposing laners.
Mm.
So, and Azilians are receiving that much experience as well. So it could be a hyper, get to 6 and start affecting stuff far quicker, or even again. So that's that's the interesting thing. There's a lot of potential off of Nyla.
Mhm.
Um, but my major worry is that again, I think that it is this was a mechanic in regards to her passive that was formally removed in regards to the Mordekaiser rework back in the day. Like it ended up being a borderline terror, and it was something that absolutely shaped the bot lane when it exists. When Mordekaiser's passive was that when they wanted to have melee ADCs. So for them to come back, Riot Games to go, well, the only way that we maybe tangibly know as to getting a melee ADC down into the bot lane is to bring back this mechanic.
Mhm.
It's an interesting choice, and I'm not so sure necessarily that it's a wrong choice. But if we're looking at the entire rest of the kit and what is being presented, it can absolutely shape, the bot lane meta, not just simply again for AD carries, but
Yeah.
supports as well.
We could, especially we could talk about the abilities anyway. So let's go on to her Q is obviously the whipping to gain the attack speed. I actually don't remember actually. Let me look it up. Her Q is Formless Blade. Nyla's Formless Blade strikes in a line, damaging all enemies hit. And the enemy will briefly increase Nyla's attack range and attack speed and power of her base attacks, causing the splash and the cone to deal damage to don't damage. Ignore some of the armor and heal Nyla for part of the damage dealt. This effect scales with crit chance and converts any excess healing from into a shield. Hmm. So basically, Wait, what? It's basically someone like a Lowy tentacle, except it actually damages.
Mm-hmm.
It's just basically a tentacle whip instead of a tentacle grab, and all that. It allows her to heal and gain damage. And adding on to that would be Nyla's W, which would be stealth, technically, Jubilant Veil, creating bonus move speed, take reduced magic damage, and dodges all incoming basic attacks. If I recall, that's Jax's thing, right?
Yeah, and it's a variation of Jax's thing, and this is again to me where it starts to get cross a little bit into that aspect of ridiculous. We're gonna have to look to see how far, obviously, that the cooldown on this skill is. But the ability of dodging all basic attacks in bot lane is absolute. It can be game changing down there,
Can she not
and
be a
the
wait?
fact,
Hold on. Instead of bot lane, can she not be a top lane? Because she could totally counter Jax at this point too. Even Set, even Mordekaiser, all that.
mm-hmm. But then at that point she has no passive as a starter. Like, and
Oh,
at
because
that
she needs the support, right? Or either
right,
support. Share experience. That's right.
Right, and that's the other thing. Even in looking at Nyla, the other aspect is in regards to how she's going to shape the meta is that we've seen a lot of roaming supports, whether that's the roaming Alistair that floats in a mid lane at 210, and you get ganked and you're paying your bot lane wondering why people didn't cover it, or Bard roaming for meeps. That again, at any point that you're not essentially locked into that 2v2 struggle in bot lane, is something that isn't going to be beneficial for Nyla, because again, she's not making full use of that passive. If we're looking at heals or shields,
Right.
if there isn't somebody there for that, she's not getting her bonus heal or shield off of that. So it's kind of locking bot lane into that Thunderdome, which isn't by any means a bad thing, but that's also going to incentivize, if you're looking at that in the aspect of bot lane, and you're drafting into, let's say, if we're looking at something, like less engagey, like a Nyla Zillion, or if we're looking at something engagey like a Nyla Rakan or Nyla Tarek, you are you going to be able to leave your bot laner, if you're a support, to go roam, if you know if they're basically just going to have to hide, and every second that you're roaming, that support that's in lane with Nyla is going to very, very quickly outscale you level wise. And even if you stay in lane, they're going to outscale you level wise. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation here.
Yeah, and moving on, we got. I mean, this is the last one, but we got the Diana ult, to bring everyone back in, but in return gain excess shielding for excess shielding, and that's what really concerns about me because now we got two Diana ults, one from her and one from Nyla, and I feel like if it's a knockup, it counts as Yasuo ult, right?
Almost certainly, yeah. That's so, yeah.
So that's a particular thing in the first that I'm actually thinking about. Could Nyla also instead of bot lane also? Could she also apply to support also? We could actually have another fasting like a fasting ADC or whatnot. You know?
It's entirely like it is a possibility. I hadn't really directly thought about that. It'd be interesting because, again, if you walk back to her passive, it is still last hitting that is what's giving that experience. So we could see as to how much, if she's viable enough as a support, it'd be an additional boost to her ADC. But obviously there is that big difference of, maximizing her vibe. To maximize her passive, she would be played as an ADC or, bot lane carry. But
That's
I think there definitely could be some, viability depending on who you're who you're having. Like, I really didn't think about it in regards to, that aspect.
well, we're
So,
well. The
yeah.
good news is, Tom Kench could finally rest. Or Tom
Mhm.
Kench can finally rest. He doesn't have to be fasting Senna anymore. Nyla could be fasting the new fasting Senna partner. Because when you think about it, Senna is actually range wise. So the fact that Nyla could actually CS really well and share experience with Senna while giving Senna souls will be the particular like the most OP bot lane you can ever see. Because when Senna gains souls, she gains attack range and attack speed, along with Nyla gaining that shared experience along with that boost. So with that, that could be another alternative for fasting Senna that could potentially defeat like a substitute for Tom Kench. And like I said, you don't have to be Tom. You don't have to play Tom Kench to realize, oh, they're playing Senna. Maybe it's gonna be Tom Kench, but you realize, oh, sure, Nyla's there. So people are gonna have to ban Nyla, or they have to ban Tom Kench because now you have two threats that are coming out. One for tankiness or one for shielding. And if you think about that, imagine you could do Nyla and Tom Kench. That boost and shielding for Tom Kench will make him the most tankiest person ever.
No, absolutely. The thing is, again, is if we're walking back here, the critics, and again, justifiably so. if we are looking at each single skill or passive in of itself, we're looking at a melee ADC that could potentially hit level advantages before you. We have a skill that ignores basic attacks. We've got, among other things, we plus bonus shielding. Um, there's so much shields, so much heal, but the additional aspect of dodging basic attacks, like the W, which is perhaps a variation of a mini Jax, that there's bonus move speed, there's reduced magic damage, there's dodging basic attacks. Um, this is a kit where if they are not absolutely on top of the potential build paths, and there's going to obviously be, in my eyes, a relatively overpowered build path, that they're going to have to, within 2 patches, take something out of this champion's kit.
Mm.
And because every single point, if they take the experience passive away, like you said, well, why not run her in a solo lane if you take away the experience thing? Like,
Oh,
if
you
you
should
take
take
if
away. Oh, you should take away the
yeah,
shared experience. That'll make it less interesting about her. I feel like if you remove like half of the shielding for her all and her passive like that, it'll still make her a viable resource. You know.
mm-hmm.
I feel like the shared experience though, it won't make her bot lane. I feel like we need to keep that because we already got too many top laners to be honest in this case. Neither also with also with the substitute for mid and support, you can actually switch between one or the other like Brand Lux, Zyra, Zerath, and all that too. You already got substitutes for that too. So the only champion that doesn't really have a substitute is bot lane. And I just want to go forward on. I don't want to skip on Nyla anyways because we already discussed the basics about her. I do want to
Now,
talk. Oh, sorry.
one last thing. You brought up Tom Kench, but hear me out. What about support set?
Ah no! Oh no! No, please don't
Yeah,
bring it. No, no.
because take a second and think about the sets W for shields and what that's going to give to Nyla potentially.
No,
When it
please don't give us PTSD again, bro, dude. Okay. Here's the thing about okay. I think some people already know, some experienced players already know the troublesome with support, and how bad it is. The fact that he was very dangerous already. Like he hit W, so if you're not careful enough, and you make him go low and like that, the fact that he's shooting is already that up, and he beats you with that damage is so PTSD. So I was like, no, please don't bring it up. We already had enough. We already had enough of Tompkins support. We already had enough of set support before, bro.
so, but yeah, and again, imagine that going on to Nyla because if an allied champion shields himself, which it happens, Nyla gets that bonus healer shield. And if it's percentage wise or even half the shield, all of a sudden if a set's getting a 300 shield, and just as a sample, it's far more than that. We both know, and Nyla's getting half of that. Well, that's that one shield, that one set W is shielding 450 health
Mm.
potentially.
And yeah,
Oh.
so yeah, I was gonna conclude on that because I was like, bro, please don't talk about supports anyways, because I know you were trying to get at. I know you're talking about that certain shielding person. I was like, who was that person again? I forgot. Oh right, Set. Okay. Anyways, moving on to the next
Yeah.
person. This is the one champion I made, and this is one thing I don't like about her. One thing I don't like about her now because they took out something that I always loved when I played this champion. It is Sivir who getting a rework, and the fact that I don't like her now is because they took out the mana refund on E,
Mhm.
but in return they gave her a healing. I'm like, bro, why are you giving her on a healing instead of the mana refund? The mana refund was ultimately the best thing on Sivir. The fact you can actually do that kind of thing, but even so they nerfed her so bad, and I was like, no. Sivir was already good enough to play as, and now even with lethality and all that, they should have kept her the way she was.
I'm inclined to agree. Again, the joy of E, as a spell shield, not only was it viable in every single lane, it would absolutely change, you know, the aspect of getting, the mana refund off of some of those things was absolutely, it was game changing in some matchups in bot lane. So I totally, again, agree that. So yeah, it's giving other things, giving that healing or procking aspects, but that definitely really shifts her identity in my eyes. What do
Plus,
you think?
plus, if you're really stupid and you try to skill shot Sivir,
Yeah.
so she's low on mana. Like, here's the funny part I like about her: the fact that it didn't require any mana to give her mana refund is what made me laugh. Because imagine this: oh, apparently I'm low on mana, but I'm still full on health. I'll just be frontline and I'll just get all the skill shots needed, and then once I get my mana up, oh, you're dead already. Cause my Q deals as much damage as what my W and my autos deal for you. So that's why I like about Sivir, because the fact that she can actually counter out, and if you really like, if you're self-aware of what Sivir can do, you're you're really fast. You just instantly pull out the E and Q. That's it. And once you realize,
Mm-hmm.
oh shoot, she has her mana back, especially at a good rate, and you get Q'd, and you're very low health, you're screwed. Because you know how much not only that it goes forward and you dodge it. Oh shoot, you can move around and then get sent back to where it goes and in a different direction, and you're screwed anyways.
And I mean, just even Sivir in the aspect of versus some of those AP like bot laners. Oh, Ziggs is randomly tossing a Q. Oh, thanks for all that mana. Caitlyn's placing traps. Don't mind if I do.
Really?
Vigar's throw
Really? You place a
like
trap for you press E for a trap? I would just press E for
no.
the R.
Well, yeah, I mean R or anything like that. I'm just talking like in the aspect of like being low on mana, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
yeah. I'm just talking for regular lane. Obviously, there's some variations, but it's the additional bonus of the bonus if you're playing in Caitlyn. Oh, guess they don't have any kill pressure right now. Okay, well I'll just randomly walk into the bush here, pop the trap that I've seen, and for the price of me having my cooldown, here's 100 additional mana, right back into my pocket or anything like that.
Right.
So, but it's it's definitely tricky because in my eyes, I think the Sivir rework doesn't reward people like you who are well versed on Sivir. That's my general feeling off of it. Those who had put in a good deal of time on the champion are not being rewarded, I feel, with this rework. I
To be honest, Sivir's not even that hard to master.
no.
All you do is basically learn how to farm her with her W, be careful with her E, and just basically just toss Qs all day. And
Yeah.
once you're ahead of the group, like once you're actually at pace with gold, you just press R for your team fights. That's it. It's not that hard. I don't get why
No.
people just don't understand Sivir. It is all you do is just follow it's like one button for what situation.
Yeah, no, I again, I totally agree. But I mean, there's also there's if you're playing against Sivir and Lane, a good Sivir again when you had if they were able to be super reliable on their boomerang blade, like that was a game changer at some points in lane. Oh, all of a sudden they get you get on the right tip on the Q1 versus Q2, get you on both, and all of a sudden, oh, where did 450 of my health go, or anything like that in lane, and you've entirely switched the lane off of one Q. Now all of a sudden ricochets are dropping down on you like they always are, and if you even get a chance to poke, if you're not well queued up, oh, you're just giving Sivir back more mana. So, I
Where did
I
Does
don't.
Play Sivir go?
Yeah,
Oh wait, you're already dead.
yeah.
That's what I like about Sivir, because she applies both lethality and crit AD. So imagine going Gale Force, you're already screwed once she already dives into you. Like if you're like what 50% health, because her Q also deals the much damage. Or even worse, she goes poke on you and she reaches her boomer plane actually reaches you. You're dealing as much as twice as much damage as what a crit 80 does, and you're so screwed as ever. And that's why I feel like that's what's been going with Sivir, because they nerfed her so bad to the point it's like, bro, I respect Sivir so much the way she was. Now that they nerfed her like this, it's so annoying. The fact that now we don't get a mana refund for what's going on with her now, but we do give healing. So I feel like in this case we now need to learn how to conserve our mana now instead of just going aggro on our CS, which makes
Mhm.
Sivir the worst champion again to play on competitive or even like in general. What's your opinion on that?
Again, I'm loath to just follow along in regards to the general populace, but for me, Sivir Spell Shield, like the mana refund aspect of it, was part of her identity, and removing aspects of that just to kind of have the the smaller heals or and all that. Um, to me, that I don't know again necessarily if through that they've captured aspects of her. Like I feel like she's lost more of her identity somehow on this rework. That's my feeling. Yeah, I don't think necessarily that the E needed to be changed. If everything else was tweaked, I think would have been totally and entirely fine. Um, and I appreciate the refresh on her takedown, like in regards to her art. I think that I think that it's close. I think that it's not that far from being a little bit more effective of a rework, but the fact that all of a sudden, you're changing aspects of having to conserve your mana, your E is a small heal. Well, how many champions again have small heals in their kit? We were just saying they're talking about Nyla, who has it seems like two or three. It every eight, the aspect of having small heals on an 80 carry is not a foreign concept. The concept of a ADC who can get a mana refunded spell shield was unique to Sivir. So that's my feeling in regards to it. But obviously, I'm by no means a Sivir main. Um, so I just,
No, I get it.
I
I
think,
mean,
I think again, it's going to take a little bit of time. Not to say that Sivir isn't a a beneficial, like, isn't a beginner friendly at some points marksman. Um, and I do like the refresh. It's it's just going to be interesting. I think again, obviously they wanted to shift away from kind of the lethality Sivir aspect, but I do think when originally she's going to come out, people are going to look and feel a little underwhelmed. That's how I'm going to describe it. They're going to feel a little underwhelmed, and then if they tweak it a little bit beyond that, I think it'll be hopefully, fingers crossed, good. I think it's okay right now. I just think that again, there's that she didn't really it didn't really accentuate her identity as much as it could have, but it's close. So,
okay. All right, and that's just basically what we're gonna conclude for our takes here for Sivir rework and for Nyla update. So we're gonna go on to the fundy topics. I'm sure you love doing these feathers, but this
yes.
question is, I this is one you have to. I feel like you can release your more picky side. What world skin would you want to keep permanently?
World skin permanently. Well, first of all, before we get this going, I want you to give your own opinion off of it.
You want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah, you do this first. I want to see where you're taking it, and then I'd be more than happy to follow it in.
Okay, well, apparently I was gonna say my fourth skin that I do want to keep was EDG Aphelios because as a former ADC main, in case you don't know, I'm now a support main. But as a former ADC main, I loved Aphelios. He was like my go-to guy besides Sivir. He was my go-to guy to ever play it. Like I smacked everybody with Aphelios. Even after he was nerfed, I still played him, and I still beat the crap out of everyone else because Aphelios, you just gotta know how to aim him correctly. And as a guy who knows how to aim skill shot people good, if I feel like this is a good guy to go. You know where to hit, you know where to connect, and basically, especially with this Calibrum, green one, you can actually aim
Mhm.
and actually double shoot someone, and with a crit, they die instantly. So even so, I feel like I feel this will be good. But if I had, instead of a recent one, if I had to pick an old one, my skins that I feel like I wouldn't pick sincerely would be either SSG 2007 Rakan or IG 2018 Rakan, Balon or Core JJ.
Well, it's interesting again that you brought this up as a question because you know by no means a flex, but last week was Clash. We won, and my team won Clash, and I was like, oh yeah, like oh let's see what we got for skin shards. Cracked the skin shard, and FPX Malphite was in there, and I was like, and I'm like, oh let's go. So, um, that's I was certainly I was thankful for it. And it's not just simply because I've got my own fair share of Malphite skins, but I also I really loved the story behind FPX Malphite and Doinby
Yeah, I know
because
the story. I know
yeah
the story well
yeah
because
yeah
FPX was known to be the dark horse of LPL, but because Doinby especially was using off meta picks that people like discreetly, like they actually point fingers at Doinby saying that, oh, because of his off meta picks they're not gonna win worlds. They don't look like they're the strongest team ever to actually win up an international tournament. Then G2 like passes on, and I'm like, oh shoot, FPX is actually taking on G2, and people are thinking, nah, no, G2 is gonna win this for sure. But FPX 3-0 G2, I was like, ooh.
well, and for me it was just the fact again that because like Doinby selected it because of his wife. Like, he chose FPX Malphite because of his wife, because I was his wife's favorite champion, and he had played it once. So he was able to actually pick it. So that was like my aspect of it. Because
Mm.
again, I'm always like a softie for romance and all that other stuff. Um, the other one I would actually say it's always tricky because if we're going back to 2017, 2016, I love the teams. Like I again, I had no problem with SKT. Enjoyed Samsung Galaxy's dominance at the time, but the difference was from a top lane perspective again that it didn't, it wasn't quite the same. Picking, you know, I there's always, if we're looking back on the ones that the top leaders had picked at the time,
Mm.
Damwon picked Kennen. When we got back to 2017, 2016, we're talking again about Nar, who is, don't get me wrong, it's cute, like it's adorable. I like Nar, but wasn't necessarily the best. In 2016, we're talking again kind of like Olaf, and it's still like Olaf is just starting to kind of come back into top, and Zach again kind of splashed in there a little bit. So it wasn't necessarily that those didn't resonate with me, but because top lane was such a cyclical role where champions rotate in and out, you know, if you took Olaf or Zach top, it would be an unorthodox pick most of the last 3 to 4 years. It doesn't mean that it wasn't viable, but it wasn't something necessarily prevalent.
Mm.
Um, and obviously it's a different story for talking about the last couple years, because obviously Kennen, Camille, totally fair. um I'm not a Camille fan myself, but I do respect and I do like IG Camille looks like awesome. If I was a Camille fan, that would definitely be one of my favorite skins for her. So that's the other one I would fall back on. But it just feels like, again, if we're looking back on the history of previous world skins, that it's a harder area for some top laners obviously to get involved in.
By the way, you mentioned Worlds 2019, how FPX won. You said he picked Malphite because of his wife. I thought. Okay, don't take this the wrong way, but I was gonna say this. Of course, don't be wife will pick Malphite because I bet you when his wife is looking at Doinby playing, of course Doinby will pick a big rock.
Fair, fair, fair.
Of course, no, but when I mean big rock, I mean a big rock.
I get it. Yeah,
And
I get you.
I was like, oh god, of course I'm gonna get cringed by saying that. But honestly though, picking Malphite is considered like and back in 2019 a huge damage dealer because once you throw ult, that damage scales around with getting, let's say, Lee Sin, that you could actually provide a huge CC. Lee Sin kicks. Gameplay actually goes for a crit shot or even for a burst. Thresh CC also, but more like you can actually pull someone out to create a pull in team fight, and Vayne just crits itself with condemn and not too. So that's what I consider as the ultimate form of a draft comp for 2019.
What I will say though, I will give one last one. I will also say though, Taipei Assassins TPA Mundo throwing the Summoner's Cup at somebody.
Oh
That
right, yeah.
that I have to give a shout out to that one. So if we're going way back, like the beginnings of League, that would be my pick for World Skin. If we're looking at more recent FPX Malphite, so TPA Mundo, FPX Malphite. That's my
Mm,
stuff.
good choice. Good choices actually. All right, we're gonna conclude in this one. Ooh, that's actually a pretty good episode that we brought up, and I also want to talk about a little more, but obviously that's the time that we have right now. Any shout out season? I keep saying season X because that's your former name, but any shout outs, feathers? Any like updates that you got going on your organization or any whatnot?
Again, just shout out to the whole amateur scene. Um, there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes by a lot of people. In order to keep this the amateur scene viable, competitive, and relatively, you know, I would use the term balanced. It's really fun and unique to see a group of passionate people, both whether it's within gaming, speaking back on, looking at a level in which, if you're me being able to look at the recent patch notes and go, yeah, these champions are quite overpowered, and seeing Riot, justify that on their nerfs. If we're looking at the administrators, people putting together a lot of time, a lot of effort, in stat sheets or all of that to generate an authentic experience to people.
Yeah.
Much as again, people like to, throw League down, discuss it as a toxic game, and obviously, there certainly are those parts. You don't have to go too far into ranked. You don't go too many games before you run into one of those toxic people. But there's a reason why we come back to the game, and whatever reason you have, there are people again who are working, passionately to give you a rewarding experience, both within Riot Games or in the amateur scene, or even just simply, with your friends,
Mhm.
because there's there are so many ways to derive excitement and pleasure, and to all those people, I thank them. So that's my shout out.
Mm. You know what I also realized?
Hmm. What's up?
Quote from Jensen 2022 summer split. I just realized I'm addicted to League of Legends.
I have a friend on my friends list, and he took a break, and when he came back to League, he changed his status to uh, blanking addicted. Obviously, blanking being a profane word. Um, if that's not a descriptor of some of us, let's be real. That he changed his status as soon as he got back. He's like, no, I'm addicted. Um, and obviously, we've seen that at some points in the scene where some people have left. But even to have that playful aspect, rightly or wrongly, there's something that there's some great things that bring people back into the game and keep us, sitting here talking, having a 1 hour podcast, talking about new champions when we've got over 150 of them in a game that has existed for well over a decade. That speaks volumes of both the friendships we've made, about the directions that the game has taken. It's awesome. So
I mean, there's the one thing that hasn't changed in ever since League of Legends was released. Master Yi is still a brain dead champion.
But have you seen the new changes on that they're proposing for Master Yi?
I heard, yeah, I heard that his Q, I heard his W is infinite now.
Well, the fact that his Q again, you might be able to choose what direction you come out
Oh,
with.
that one, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, if we're looking at that, I might have to change my band eventually from Belveth to Master Yi soon enough, or Nyla.
But
we,
yeah, we'll see what's going on after when Pride announces it. But yeah, we're gonna end it right here. Thank you so much, Feathers, for joining in, and again, thank you so much for just putting your time, just making yourself available to join this League Lounge episode 11. Episode 10 was actually, I don't remember what it was. But I know that episode 10 was I got roasted on that. So I think it was. Let me look it up right now. Let me get a chance right now. It's been a while. Hold up. Let me get a good look at this. Oh, can ranked be fixed at all? That was episode 10, and I got roasted for that because I mentioned I played a support. Now he's like one of my guests was like in case you don't know who Volter is, he's actually one of our mods that helped me set up this league. But he says you're disgusting, and I'm like, what? But playing Tarek? He's like, you're disgusting. I'm like, okay. I know I play Tarek. I know I'm disgusting. But hey, that's the life of support, man. You just can't do anything except play support like that. You just gotta pick the most unstoppable champions, you know? But yeah, thank you so much for joining in and all that too. Episode 11, we really got it going, and furthermore, we could possibly get a few episodes going with different guests. I think one episode we had two guests going on. One was one of your people. It was Shanghai, and the other was from Alpha Esports, Chris Sunga, and hope that sooner or later we can have more guests to join in, so we can actually create a little more like fiesta, just so we can create like a whole situation like, oh, what are we gonna bring to this ASC League nowadays? Because I don't know if you noticed, ASC League is now just a league show. We're not gonna just do it. We're not gonna do a league from now on, because I feel like the timing of the other organizations are actually a little bit harder than I expected. So I thought it's like, it's better not to do it. It's better not to make a league and all that too, which kind of bums people out a lot because we do want to see an international tournament, which I heard that NA Worlds is doing right now, like the Amateur Worlds, that one organization or is not, they're doing it. So I really respect them for trying to set it up and all that too. In the meanwhile, I just want to set up like a show just to make things a little more interesting, and also just so we can create like a little more roasting session right there. So yeah, thank you so much for thank you so much for taking some of your time just so we can discuss like just the basic stuff, but going also a little more fun stuff and all that too. Thank you.
happy to do so. And again, thanks for having me. So have a good night.
All right. Thank you so much. And that concludes episode 11 of League Lounge. We're gonna see you next time, or perhaps even shorter on next week. So we'll see you later. Thank you so much, and we'll see you. Bye bye.